Hello, today we're on the search for the ancient gods, and right now we're on the road to Mount Nimrod, the ancient god of the pre-Christian world in Anatolia. I'm with my driver here, Ujur, and we're in his taxi. It's fared well up these mountain passes so far. If you have a look out the window you can see just how high we are. He's also told me that if we get stopped by the police, I'm his cousin, and we're on a trip to go for a walk together because he doesn't have any documentation apparently. Anyway, here we are, and we're almost there, 2 kilometers to the top of the mountain before we can see the statues of Nimrod. So why have we come all the way here? 4 hours drive from the hotel where I'm staying in Gaziantep. Another 2 kilometers hike up these steep steps in front of me. We can blame it all on ancient King Antioch I, who was around in about 64 BC. And he'd established a little kingdom here. I can't quite remember the name of it, but I'll put the name of it on the screen for you. And what he wanted to do was to have a kind of mini revival of Persian gods who had been worshipped long ago in ancient Babylonia. And to do that, he got his worker dudes, probably slaves, to come up here to the tallest mountain that could see for miles around and to chisel away and make themselves some statues of the ancient Babylonian gods, among whom was Nimrod, who's been made famous in Western culture from his mention in the Bible and in the Torah as well, and he's also in the Quran. But there are some other gods featured among them too. For example, Arslan is there, or Aslan. That name rings a bell, doesn't it, from C.S. Lewis? What's he doing there, or she doing there? These gods were kind of animal-human hybrids that date back to the ancient world. And chances are that Antioch I, the good old king who built these statues, probably saw or heard of the stories about these gods. They were probably in folk culture, and he wanted to get in on the action himself and to make sure that he could garner their support from building them kind of temple slash dedicatory shrine on the top of this mountain. So here we are, let's go and see the top of Mount Nimrod. Here's Ujo, my driver. Now he hasn't been here either. Finish. It's too far. And he's already driven 4 hours all day, and he's driven before that another 4 hours, I think, to get to me. So he's done a very good job. It's very high, but look, it's very beautiful. I would say beautiful in Turkish, but I don't know. And jamila jiddan. It's very, very pretty. Now apparently, people usually do this trip for sunrise or for sunset, probably when it's a bit cooler. Now, we're doing it in the midday sun. Why is that, you ask? Probably because I like to travel on a budget. So I hadn't booked a tour. I just got to ask this kind driver to take me. In any case, it is a little hot coming up these stairs. There's something about religions and stairs, you know, because when I went to Mount Sinai, there's a monk at Mount Sinai that laid, I think it was 350 stone slabs as an act of penitence, so that he could mark out a journey to the top of that holy mountain. Here I don't think there's quite that many stairs, but there's still quite a few. And I wonder if this is actually higher than Mount Sinai, I don't know, but it is just as beautiful. The view from it is just as beautiful. Ojo, iyi misin? He's okay, that's good. think I've tired him out. We're coming up to something now, let's see. Wow, look at this. No matter how many times you see something on a picture, you can never understand the sheer magnitude of these ancient works of art until you're actually here. Just have a look. So here we've got the pantheon of the gods which King Antioch wanted his followers to worship. Eagle guy over here, King Antioch over here, he features too, a king, emperor, god. And if we go right over here, come on, there's a little cameo here from Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Look who it is. It's Aslan. Aslan meaning lion. Sitting on the pantheon of the gods on Mount Nimrod. Now once upon a time those heads were all up on the statues behind me. They were sitting looking out over this vast view over the Taurus mountains. And then over here, wow, look at these birds over here. Now over here, if you can hear me above the wind, it's an altar. Just have a look at this. I'm standing right now on the altar that was constructed here, just in front of these extraordinary gods looking out over the mountains. So we made it. Ujjwal made it too. We made it round to this side. A bit more about these gods. So there's Zeus in the middle here, but he is flanked not only by King Antioch himself, who we've seen already, but also by his two sons and the goddess of fertility here, who allegedly was holding some grapes here to symbolise her fertility. The two sons, though, are Apollo and Heracles. Apollo symbolising light and the power of the sun, I'm guessing, and Heracles symbolising man's power before nature. And what an indication of man's power before nature to have constructed this right at the top of this mountain here. With the altar opposite, no doubt sacrifices would have taken place, and this whole area here was no doubt filled with the buzz of religious worship back in the day, 60 odd BC. So I'm on the east side of the terrace now, where the same pantheon of gods sits looking out to the other side of the mountain. Again, another worshipping place for people to come up and to offer their sacrifices. So that brings us now to the name of the mountain, Mount Nimrod. Now, why was Nimrod so important, such an important religious figure? Well, Nimrod was Noah's grandson, and if you know anything about Noah, you know that he was involved in the big flood. He built the ark and saved mankind from God's wrath, or the best of mankind. When he was washed up after the flood, he himself had a few problems with God, but his grandson, Nimrod in particular, did have a lot to say about what his grandfather had been through. Nimrod is pretty much known as the anti-God king in this area of history / mythology and religious history. He wanted to demonstrate to God that he was never again going to fall victim to the flood that was sent in the time of his grandfather. So what he did was he tried to build a massive tower so that when a flood came again, mankind could evade the flood and survive. So he tried to build this tower. It became known as the Tower of Babel because as he tried to build it, God sent a punishment to mix up the languages of the people that lived there, so they started babbling. This is where we get the word Babel from, the Hebrew word Babel. And so the tower was no more, and Nimrod was thwarted. However, this story is important to us because it comes from a story to do with a great flood which took place, which archaeologists, historians, ancient historians have contended with as a kind of story which connects a lot of mankind's history together, this idea that an ancient flood destroyed an old civilization. So to investigate that story further now, we're going to go to an even more ancient site than this one, the site of Gobekli Tepe. Ujo, are you ready to go? We're ready. I've been filming a long time, so he's been very patient. Here we go, let's go. Thank you very much, Ujo, for an excellent trip. Say bye from Mount Nimrod. Gobekli Tepe. Now, I have to come clean here and say that before I visited this site, I knew very little about it. Possibly because its history goes way back beyond what I'm used to reading about. In the late 1990s, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavations on a remote mountaintop in southeast Turkey. What he and his team found there was to turn established ideas about early human society upside down. Excavations uncovered 20 stone enclosures, all in circles and many containing massive stylized stone pillars. On these pillars are carvings of human figures, animals and other peculiar shapes, all suggesting remarkable technical ability for a society that was yet to develop pottery. The enclosures date from 11,000 years ago, making them mankind's oldest known structures on the planet. But this was not all. It was the purpose of the site at Gobekli Tepe that was to yield even more fascinating implications about mankind's early history. Tools found at the site, along with the lack of domesticated farm grains, suggest that the enclosures had been built by hunter-gatherers, early humans that had been living off the land since the Ice Age. If this is accurate, it suggests that the site at Gobekli Tepe was not for long-term habitation. Instead, it possibly could have served some kind of religious purpose, a place for a festival or similar kind of temporary coming together for the people living in the surrounding area. Why was this important? Well, before Schmidt's discovery at Gobekli Tepe, there was a widely held view in archaeology that complex religious ritual and practice had come after mankind had learned to settle down, domesticate crops and end their hunter-gatherer ways. The findings at Gobekli Tepe, however, suggested the opposite. In fact, complex religious practice, even the construction of an almost mini cathedral that had occurred at Gobekli Tepe, had happened while early humans were still in the hunter-gatherer stage. Gobekli Tepe has attracted even more speculation than Schmidt's bold claim, however. A quick internet search of the site will soon reveal the claims of Graham Hancock. Hancock argues that the history behind the exquisite craftsmanship at Gobekli Tepe goes back even further than the site's construction 11,000 years ago. His argument rests on the teachings of a distant, now lost civilization that were handed over to the hunter-gatherers who then worked on the site, using this knowledge to build Gobekli Tepe. It was this, Hancock argues, that enabled a simple civilization who had not yet invented farming to erect the 10-ton columns present in each enclosure. This knowledge is represented by the small padlock-like packets visible on the side of one of the columns. Knowledge that was lost, perhaps, to some ancient disaster such as a flood, a narrative which is present in many different human mythologies all around the world. For some, Hancock's claims border on the absurd, almost a conspiracy theory.
Whatever your opinion, what struck me at this most ancient site is the continual problem for the historian. How can we, thousands of years distant, feel so ready to make confident claims about a people of whom we know so little? What the site at Gobekli Tepe does show is that for millennia, mankind has sought out knowledge and devotion of a higher power. Just as at Mount Nimrod, here at Gobekli Tepe, in its earliest known form, the force that had first drawn human beings together was the desire to give praise, to celebrate and to worship the divine.
What's fascinating being here is seeing the inscribings on the wall, the carvings on the stone, which predate Stonehenge, they predate the pyramids, and some man or woman carving these thousands of years ago is seeing their handiwork being shown today in this excavation is absolutely fascinating. And as far as history goes, it doesn't get much more historical than this. Gobekli Tepe isn't even the only site of religious ritual around here. There are about 10 or 20 other sites dotted around the foothills of the Taurus Mountains. It's said that they chose this site perhaps because it's high up, so it means that many people can see it from miles around, and also because it's very close to a limestone quarry where they got these stones from.
Gobekli Tepe was also situated in what's called the Fertile Crescent that existed at the end of the last ice age, meaning that the hunter-gatherers that lived there could easily find animals to hunt to feed themselves. And speaking of feeding ourselves, after a long day in the search for the ancient gods, it was time to go for a nice Turkish dinner.
So we've been on the hunt for the ancient gods all day, but now we've returned to Gaziantep to dine with the gods with fine Gaziantepi cuisine. Uju's there. Give us a wave, Uju, if you want to. I'd say thank you very much for driving all that way. And this brings us to an end to this episode of Mr. Keith on Location. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, put your thoughts on Gobekli Tepe in the comments here. And I will wish you farewell with a glass of Ayran Turkish yogurt in this fair goblet. Have a good day and see you soon.